a little bit about as far as my childhood. Pretty much didn't live with my mom. Um, Moved back and forth with family members, mostly my aunt, and then growing up, I mostly lived with my dad and his wife, which was my stepmom, and their other children. Well, right after high school, I graduated from Hogan. I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. I just, and I think it has something to do with as far as my confidence. My stepmom, she really played a part in that as far as my confidence and not really believing in me and where I wanted. I didn't know. I knew I loved to draw, but I didn't know what to do with it pretty much, and my confidence was pretty much shot. So I just knew that I just had to get a job because college wasn't like an option. And so, yeah, fast forwarding, my dad and my stepmom pretty much got a divorce, and then he was in and out of my life, and then so that's when I seeked a lot of attention trying to find it, and I met my then boyfriend. We pretty much he was into partying and stuff like that, and that's what I wanted to do too, and so end up getting pregnant and really wanted to keep my baby, and there were some in my corner as far as keeping it, but my stepmom came back in my life because she was in and out, and thought I should get an abortion, and but I knew I didn't want to do that because honestly I didn't even know what abortion was, and she told me, and so we went to the abortion clinic and spoke with a counselor, and I remember speaking to her and telling her I don't really want to do this, but my stepmom is telling me that I should do this, and she was like, well, Kaisha, that's up to you, but do know that once we do the procedure, that's it, because it's a 2-day procedure, because I was about 3 months, about to be on 4, and so I was like, okay. She was like, because it's like surgery, that once they start the procedure, I can't eat after a certain hour, and if so, I can pretty much choke, and as far as the surgery procedure. And so I came up with the idea to lie to my stepmom, because when I got in the car that day, she thought that I already started. She's like, did you do it or whatever? I was like, well, they said that I couldn't eat at a certain time, so I actually lied to her because I wanted anyone to stop me and say, no, don't do it. But she was like, oh my goodness, Kaisha, you shouldn't have made that mistake. Okay, this time don't eat at a certain hour. So clearly her mom was made up. She wanted me to do this. And so, that night, I went to bed, had a bad dream, woke up, and it was 2 o'clock in the morning, and I purposely went in the bathroom by her room to cry loud so she can hear me to wake up. And she did, but clearly her mind was set you should still do it, because I didn't want to do it. So fasting forward, I went to the clinic, they called my name and some other women's name, and I just, put on the robe and the gown, and I remember taking a pill and just noticing the other women in the room that were just so calm, and I just felt out of place, because I'm like, why isn't anyone crying? Why isn't anybody feeling bad for what they're about to do? And it was just me, the only one. And I remember taking this pill to make the contractions start so I can go or whatever a little faster. And mine happened to be some kind of, I don't know, it's like a effect that went really bad because all of a sudden I started having really, really bad cramps. And I went to the bathroom, and it was pretty much, they was like, yeah, you have to go, because we had to go in order. And I remember I told myself, I'm going to stay awake for this procedure because I want to see what happens. And I just remember that I was so drugged up that um, the doctor just like was like, Kaisha, are you still there, kind of thing. And before I know it, the procedure was over. And afterwards, I just felt like, what have I just done? And you know, they try to like calm you down with snacks and stuff, but I was so angry. I didn't want anything, and I didn't want to talk to anyone. I was just waiting for my ride. And like I remember getting in the car just crying and just being really upset, and happened to put on a front for everyone to make them think that I wasn't angry, but I was. Wanted to go out and try my best to like numb myself from the thought, but that wouldn't work. Like, I still was upset. I would try to go out to the mall with my friends and stuff, but I still would think about it. People would make jokes like about abortions, and then like, oh, Kaisha, you'll be fine. I'm like, right, I'll be fine, but in the back of my mind, I want to kill myself. And then after that, just wanted to avoid baby showers, hating Mother's Day at church. And it's like all of a sudden people started having babies, and it got on my nerves. Wanted me to hold their children, but I didn't want to. I would lie and say my arm hurt or something stupid like that. And like, you know, fast forwarding, I joined this church called Grace Baptist Church, and I started going on a regular, and then all of a sudden I joined, became a member. And I remember one Sunday, the pastor started talking about abortions, and I'm like, oh goodness. Like, because at this time, it was like I was 19 when I had my abortion. At this time, I think I was like 24. And I'm like, okay, why you have to talk about this topic? And I think what it was is like back then, I forgave the situation, but I didn't forgive myself. And so I felt like God placed it on my pastor's heart and mind to speak about it. And I'm like, okay, here we go. And I just remember in that day after service, my pastor was talking about it and was saying, you know, God is a forgiving God. And then that's when I was introduced to Rachel House. One of the girls at my church is a volunteer there. And she told me about Rachel House and how they help with women as far as abortions and stuff like that. And so it's just like, I think you should come, you know, and just hear what they have to say. And I remember going to Rachel House, you know, to orientation just to see what it's about. And just something about the display of how the baby is like real little and how it starts to grow. That did something to me, and I had to walk out the room and I was crying, and I'm like, okay, clearly I'm not over it. I thought I was. I tried to suppress it and really just forget about it, but I wasn't. And then Elaine told me about If Not for Grace Ministries, and I tried my best to like avoid the situation again, like not calling. So one day I called and it kept going to voicemail, and I'm like, okay, forget it, I give up. And someone told me like to still call them or whatever, and I ended up speaking to one of the volunteers at If Not for Grace Ministries, and then still fasting forward. I went to, before they pretty much were preparing me to go if her Choice to Heal meeting and reading the book and lesson. And like before I went to that, like a month before, I happened to see the guy that got me pregnant. And it was scary because I haven't seen him since I was 19 years old. So it was like, okay, like this has to be a sign. Even though we were in the store and he didn't say anything to me, I didn't say anything to him, because I think even he was a little shocked to see me too. And it kind of hurt because, you know, I saw kids there with him calling him daddy, and it was like, okay, yeah, this is a sign and I'm going to do this. And that's when I started going to her Choice to Heal classes, and after that, meeting other women that was going through the same thing I was going through and talking to them. And her Choice to Heal book really did help me. Of course, it brought out the truth in those emotions that I tried to suppress and try to put behind me. It made me only realize that it was hurting me, and who God really see me as. And after that, went to reconciliation weekend. To be vulnerable in front of others, it wasn't good at first, but then, you know, just knowing that other people that really cares for you and been through the same thing that can relate, really made a difference. And ever since then, as far as the church that I'm in, I found out that my spiritual gift is exhortation. And I started noticing that people started coming to me for advice. And so I'm like, okay, I want to go to college and go to school, but I don't know what to do. And so I was like, why don't I use something that I already have? And my aunt told me, she was like, well, have you ever thought about being a counselor? And I was like, it was like a light bulb went off. I never thought about that. And so now I go to Carver Baptist College for my bachelor's to be a Christian counselor, which is also at my church. I feel like I was placed there for a reason, because not only do I have the church family for support, but also financially. Like I said, I see women come to me for advice, and I do see what God is doing in my life, especially with the women, if not for grace. And to listen, not just get the advice if I should do this, but to listen. Because no matter what, the choice is hers. But not to do it because the guilt and the shame and the regret is really real. It's one thing when you lose something, but that right there is beyond, like, the feeling is like torture. And of course, I believe through God, you can get through anything, but just to experience that, it can all be avoided. And, you know, God, I even seen it in my dream before, where God revealed to me that I have a daughter waiting for me in heaven. Her name is Stephanie, and she's so beautiful. So, I mean, but to answer your question, yeah, it's so easy to say don't do it, but the regret and just feeling like that can all be avoided.
All right. So, what are your guys' thoughts on that video, just overall?
I mean, like, regardless, no matter what, like, the pro-choice movement is all about choice, which is obviously in this situation she felt like she didn't have a choice, which is, I feel like, is very wrong. Like, the whole basis of it is she's supposed to have her own choice. It's not supposed to be anybody else's either way. So I think that was the most tragic part about this. And I mean, it was obviously a very heartbreaking situation, but I mean, in the end, she ended up in a positive position, and she's able to help other people through what she's been through.
Yeah, I guess for me, it was really touching to hear her experience, and I know for me, it really moved me, like, the fact that she's able to talk about it, and it's great to see that now she's in a ministry where she's working to help women in her same situation. Like she said, it's sad to see that she didn't really have any sort of choice. She's kind of forced into it. And even not really having a lot of knowledge prior to was really sad to see as well.
Do you think Kaisha understood in her own mind how she would feel after the abortion?
No, I don't think anybody really understands how they'll feel, whether they're going into it because they want to or don't want to.
I agree. It's hard to really know until you've experienced it. Which is why then now the ministry she's in is super powerful, so because she has experienced it, so she knows. She can speak from experience.
What were your feelings while you were watching this video versus kind of at the end of the video, and did they change at all?
I mean, when she was first telling her story, I was angry because I was like, she didn't get any say in this. That upset me, that frustrated me. But I mean, at the end, like I said, like it was like made me happy to see that she's at least in a better place and doing something good for herself and going to school and helping other people. So
I guess for me it was more of a feeling of sadness rather than anger, just because she did have to experience that. And of course, like you can tell in her own, telling of it, it was sad, she regrets that decision that she did make, or the situation that ended up happening. I guess she didn't really have a lot of say. But also, yeah, I'm happy too that through it all, God was able to put her in a good spot, be able to help women like her.
Hey guys, today I'm going to do a pretty serious type of video for you, and I know that a lot of people are going to judge me. I know a lot of people are going to leave me some comments, but I just want to be able to put this out there and help some people if I can. I got this idea from another YouTuber that I saw put out a story about her abortion, and she said that she was looking for research and looking for people to relate to with a story that she could kind of relate to when she was going through with hers. And I never had the same thing. I had to just Google and go off of Planned Parenthood. I never had anybody put something out there or tell me their experience or tell me what it was like. So I just want to put it out there so I could maybe help one person, no matter all the hate that I'm going to get. If I help one person, then I'm glad I made this video. But when I was 17 years old, I was dating a 24-year-old, and he wasn't the best person in the world. He had 3 kids prior to this and 1 on the way that he never took care of, never claimed or anything. He just didn't take care of them, and I guess that should have been a red flag to me, but I was 17. I wasn't looking for marriage or any kind of specific dating material. I had just gotten out of an abusive relationship, and it was just kind of I don't know, it was just kind of my getting over that situation. I felt safer because I was with somebody that if, he were to attack me, that he was there and he was bigger and older and he could take care of that for me, is kind of how I thought. But basically, we were together, and we obviously had sex. I got pregnant, and I tried to text him immediately when I found out. And he kind of blew me off for a few days and wouldn't talk to me. And I told my mom and my dad, and it didn't go well, and I ended up staying at my sister's for almost a week. And he finally came over and was basically like, I already have 3 kids and 1 on the way, and I just don't think that you should have this baby. And I was kind of like, okay, you have 4 other kids, but I kind of almost made it to me seem like I wasn't good enough. Is kind of how I felt. I don't know. It was kind of hard to hear, but at the same time, you know, I was thinking to myself, what am I going to do? Do I just keep it? Do I do this? Do I put it for adoption? Can I handle that mentally? Can I mentally handle having an abortion? So basically what I did was I went home finally, and I did a lot of research, a lot of Googling, a lot of Planned Parenthood. I just did as much research as I could. I went to Planned Parenthood and took the pregnancy test with them to make sure, and they gave me paperwork on everything that I could do, adoption, abortion, keeping it, all of that. So I went home, did a lot of research, a lot of reading, and to me, I'm a very emotionally attached type of person, so if I would have carried the child, I don't think I could have ever given it up, even though I know it would have been something great to do. It would have been nice for another family to have, but the way that I am emotionally and wired, I just don't think I could do that. And I thought that would be much harder for me to put myself through. And so I did a lot of research about abortion, and I ended up finding out that, you know, there's two different procedures. There's a surgical and then there's a pill. After I did a lot of research, the pill was more of like your body having a miscarriage is kind of more of what it does, versus like surgically having things like removed. So I called the Planned Parenthood. My Planned Parenthood in my local area didn't do them, so I had to go to like a bigger city. And I called there, you know, I got all the information, and I set up my appointment. It was only a few days, so I went. And when you get there, I think a lot of people have a miscommunication about what happens there at Planned Parenthood. I feel like a lot of people think that you can just walk up in there and be like, yeah, I'm here to have an abortion, and that's just not how it works. You have to have paperwork, you have to have an appointment, you have to have paperwork, and you have to have an appointment, and you have to go in there and you fill out all these forms, and then they take you back. You're not allowed to have anybody with you, like in the rooms. Like somebody can come with you for support, but they can't come back to the room with you. And you know, they took me back. They had me listen to something on a headset. I don't really remember what it was, but I sat and listened to the CDs. And then they took me back. They pulled a lot of my blood to run some tests, and then they took me back to a counselor, and they were talking to me a lot about, you know, like, why are you doing this? Is this your choice? Is there somebody forcing you to do this? You know, and they were very supportive. It was a great experience. They, you know, were very concerned as to why I was doing it, if I was, you know, was I okay with it? And basically after I told the lady, you know, I was like, you know, I'm with somebody and they don't want another child. They can't take care of the children they already have. I'm 17. I have no job. I have nothing. And it wasn't my time. It just wasn't. And basically she was like, it seems like if your circumstances were a little different, you know, you wouldn't need to do this, but either way we support what you're doing here today, and, you know, whatever. Really nice. And then I went back to the room where the doctor was. I also had a sonogram, and they asked me if I wanted to see it, if I wanted the picture. And I decided not to, just because I had a feeling that would be harder for me later down the road, and it would be harder for me if I saw it. So I just opted not to. Also, I was only 5 weeks, so it didn't have a heartbeat. They told me it didn't have a heartbeat, and they played sound, so there was no heartbeat. And that made me feel a little better about the situation. But so I went back to the room, and they gave me a pill, and they make you swallow it in front of them, and then there's 4 other pills that you have to take the next day. So you basically take the pill there, and then the next day, it was like 12 hours later, I think, or 24 hours later, you had to put these 4 pills like inside your mouth, like right here. And I did that, and not even, like, they weren't even dissolved all the way, and I started cramping, and I was like, oh my god. So I went into the bathroom, and I was in the bathtub, And I swear to you, thought I was dying. Like, it hurt really bad. There was a lot of cramping. And then I just started puking, which my mom ended up calling Planned Parenthood, and they said I should be fine, you know, as long as they got him down and stuff was happening, and I was fine. So I was, you know, in the tub, and I was, you know, sick, and it was really hard. I'm gonna be honest, I have a child now, so it was almost worse than childbirth itself. Like, it was really hard, and it hurt a lot. Finally, I fell asleep for like 3 hours, and I woke up and went to the bathroom, and everything came out. I did look at it. I did kind of, you know, and it was hard. So I, you know, got disposed of the pad and everything, and went back to sleep, and I, you know, went back to normal. Was bleeding a lot, you know, and then I had my period, and it was, you know, I went back, I think 2 weeks later, to Planned Parenthood for them to do another ultrasound to make sure that it was all gone and no problems. And then that's where I got birth control. After that, I got like a lot of education from Planned Parenthood. I ended up going on the patch, and then I was on that for 3 years, and then I decided to have Paisley. So I'm telling you now, it was a hard situation, and I do think about it a lot. But I don't regret my decision, because I know I did what was best for me in my situation that I was in. I did the best that I could to, you know, do what I had to do. And it's hard for me because the dad never cared, never even after that saw, I mean, like, he used me for a long time after that, but he never fully apologized to me for it. He did try to apologize to me once, but he couldn't look me in the face, so I didn't accept it as anything less than a lie. And he has another kid now, so he never learned his lesson. I think he just thought that if I was pregnant, he would end up in jail. So I have a feeling that's kind of why he did what he did. But, you know, at the end of the day, I now have a healthy relationship, and I have a beautiful daughter that's loved by both of her parents. And, you know, I had her when I was ready to have her, and when I had a job, and when I had a stable environment and a stable relationship, and somebody that I know, regardless, is going to be around for her. But my number one thing I wanted to do with this video was, if you are looking for help, if you need help help making a choice, if you need help with birth control, if you need help with any kind of education on sex, Planned Parenthood is a great resource for anyone. I'm really upset about the whole state funding thing, but, you know, if it wasn't for them, I would have never got the education that I got about having sex or birth control or anything. They changed my life, and, you know, after that, I've had a great experience with birth control, and a great experience with having a sex life, and a great experience with having a child. So without them, I don't really know how that would have went. They saved me from future issues. They taught me that, you know, it's okay to be on birth control and how to use it properly. And, you know, without them, it could have happened to me again. And I'm really thankful for that experience in my life, because it changed me as a person, and it made me change, and it made me realize that, you know, there's things that we have to do to protect ourselves and to make sure that we don't get put in these situations, because, you know, that's one less person that, you know, could have to have an abortion, or one less person that has to be a teen parent. And it's just a hard thing. So if you have any questions about abortion or about birth control, Planned Parenthood, you can leave them down below. I will leave links to Planned Parenthood in my description box below. And I know that some of you are going to leave me some hate comments, but that's okay. I've dealt with them in real life, so I had to do what I had to do, and now I'm a better person and a better parent for it. So just if you have any questions, leave them down below, and I hope that I could have helped somebody out with this video. Bye, guys.
All right. So what were some of your thoughts on that video?
I mean, I appreciate the basis of the video, because she's trying to help educate people, and I definitely think that people who are in those kind of situations are definitely afraid to talk to people about it, and especially now how everything is just accessed on the internet. So I mean, I think the basis of the video was good to try to help inform people.
As for me, I'm glad that she's reaching out, wanting to help other women, or other girls, I guess, that might be in a similar situation as she was. I don't agree with her choice, but I also don't hate her for it. She was in a tough spot. It's hard. I mean, I can't imagine my age, like being her age, 17. My parents basically kicked her out of the house for a while, and a boyfriend doesn't want to take care of the kids either. It's hard, and definitely not prepared. But at that point to be a mom. But I guess I personally would wish that she would have given it up for adoption, because it still is a child.
So discuss like her concerns on how she felt uninformed on what to do, and she didn't really know who to talk to.
Well, I mean, I definitely think it's very concerning, because I just think as a country that like all kinds of education needs to be improved regarding sex, abortion, everything like that, because there's definitely, like, I'm from Texas, and there's a lot of small towns who preach only abstinence, and I mean, I definitely think that should be included in sex education, but I don't think it should be the basis of it, because it just doesn't inform people how to deal with things if they don't choose abstinence. Like, in my school, sex ed didn't even touch on abortion at all. That wasn't even brought up. And I definitely think that it's a real life thing that people need to, like, learn about and learn how to handle.
What were some of your thoughts on how she felt uninformed?
I definitely think it's important that people are informed and that they know. And I'm glad that she did, time and time again, she talked about the fact that she was kind of seeking out and like researching. I think that's super important. You definitely need to go know what you're, know what you're gonna do, what decision you're making when you're in that situation. Personally, I guess for me, with where she was at, in her, I guess, say that I feel, I guess, that the best, because she definitely wasn't ready to be a mom, that, it maybe would have been best to try not to have sex, because that's, then you don't even come into that situation at all. But it's definitely important that people are informed and that they understand, like, what can happen and where to go. And it's important that there are people that are available to talk to people and to give them that information.
Did you sense any lasting emotional effects, considering the fact that she said she does not regret her decision?
I mean, I definitely think that has to have had enough impact on her to want to make this video so many years later. And I mean, even though she doesn't regret it, doesn't mean that it didn't have an effect on her. And I mean, I think, like she said, it helped her become a better person and a better parent. And so I definitely think that it impacted her in probably in a different way than regret, but I think it impacted her.
I would agree. It definitely impacted her. I know and she even mentioned in the video too. Like, I still think about it. And yeah, obviously the motivation to put this video out there, and even knowing that unfortunately that she may face hate or judgment for it, and that's really sad to me that is even she shouldn't have to face that. She should really be met with love, no matter what her decision was. That it's still, she had that motivation to be able to reach out to those people that might be in the same situation. So I think it definitely impacted her.
Do you think that she felt like she was treated with respect and concern by Planned Parenthood?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that she got a lot of help there. Obviously, she's advocating for them, and she said she had a really good experience with like the counselors that were there, and they helped inform her about her decision, and they gave her lots of different options before she made her decision. So I definitely think that she felt respected, and like they gave her a lot of help.
Yeah, I would agree. Just by her talking about it, she definitely felt like she was respected.
Hi everyone, my name is Tyra. For my first video, I thought that the best story that I could possibly think of, the best topic that I could bring up, would be my abortion story. Sorry. I had an abortion about almost 3 years ago now. At the time, when I got pregnant, I was 18 years old. When I had my abortion, I was 19. So my birthday had passed during my pregnancy. What was going on was I was living with my boyfriend at the time. I had moved out of my parents' house. It was my very first place that I'd lived in on my own. And he and I were having problems. We moved in really quickly. We moved in together after about, I think it was 7 months of dating. And by this time, it was just after a year of being together. So we were having problems. He had some alcohol abuse issues, and I'm not saying that he was an abusive person by any means, because he is definitely a sweetheart. I started spending more and more time with his friends and becoming closer and closer. Now, there was one person specifically who I guess you could say was his best friend at the time, who I became very close with. My boyfriend and I started fighting a lot. So I ended up moving in with my best friend for a few weeks at her parents' house. And during that period of time, my boyfriend's best friend and I had the opportunity to explore our feelings for each other, I guess you could say. And I'm gonna try and keep this focused on the abortion itself, so I'll try and skip ahead a little bit. So this guy and I hung out more and more and more. Connection grew. We slept together, obviously, quite a few times. So as I was sleeping with this boy, I got pregnant. So, and then we were, I have to cut this part out. So I was sitting at home one night, and my boyfriend, my ex-boyfriend at that point, had gone out to meet up with a friend or something. And he had actually bought me Plan B the morning after I had initially gotten pregnant. He bought me Plan B, and I didn't take it because I was like, no, like, I heard it messes up your body. It's really bad for you. Like, I'm not pregnant. There's no point in taking it. And he also bought me a pregnancy test just because like he knew that I was sleeping with this guy and that it was unprotected. Like everything was very out in the open with him. Like I didn't really keep anything from him. We had excellent communication for a relationship, and I think that's the reason why why he was so helpful throughout this process. So I'm sitting at home one night and I'm like, maybe I should just take a test. Like, it's not harm gonna be. I'm not pregnant anyway, so like, I might as well just take the test. That way, just like, I know I'm not pregnant, but just to confirm it. So I get my crutches, I crutch over to the bedroom where it is, get the test, go to the bathroom, pee on the stick, and I sit there and wait. And it's like 11:30 at night on a Tuesday. Super, super random. So I'm sitting there and I'm like, I'm waiting, and I'm waiting. And it was one of those clear blue tests that tell you I still have the test. I'm not going to show you guys because it's kind of gross, but it's sentimental for me, something I hold on to. I know it's really weird. But I'm sitting there waiting, and it pops up, 3 weeks pregnant. And I was like, and at that point, there's no way that could be wrong, right? I mean, you're supposed to take a test first thing in the morning when you wake up for most accurate results. This was 11:30 at night after I'd peed a million times that day. 3 weeks? Like, you know what I mean? How can it mistake 3 weeks pregnant? That's a long time. And so at that point, what it didn't discover was like I was 3 weeks pregnant, but like 3 weeks from the day that I conceived. Because when you go to the doctor, the thing that nobody really explains to you is that the development of the egg and the sperm counts as 2 weeks of your pregnancy. So once you get pregnant, you're already 2 weeks pregnant. So I freaked out. I absolutely lost my mind. I think I just started hyperventilating and hysterically crying. I'm 19 years old. I don't know what's going on with my boyfriend. I just got my first stable job. Like, I don't even have a reliable vehicle. What am I supposed to do? Like, I haven't even been at this job for 3 months. I can't go on mat leave. Like, what? So I'm sitting there. All of this is rushing through my head. I basically, by that point, like, I'd already put my pants back on and stuff when I was waiting. And I basically laid down on the bathroom floor, hugged the toilet, and cried. Bawled my eyes out for a good 10 minutes. And then I was like, I gotta tell him. And for privacy issues, like, I feel like I need a name just to, like, so that no one gets confused here. So I'm gonna use the same names that I used in my book. So the boy that got me pregnant, same name that I used in my book, his name is James. Okay? So I'm like, fuck, like, I have to tell James. Like, I can't do this on my own, you know? So I called him. And I tried calling him, and thank God I had blocked my number before I called him because I didn't want there to be any possibility of him not answering my phone calls, because he had actually stopped talking to me after the last time that we slept together because he wanted to get back together with his girlfriend. So left me high and dry. Meanwhile, not only am I madly in love with this kid, but I'm also apparently pregnant with this child. So I call him 3 times. No answer either at the times. And like, keep in mind, like, once again, it's like we're getting to like almost midnight here on a Tuesday. Like, the kid's working, you know, he's got responsibilities, so I'm not surprised he doesn't answer. So I call him one more time and it rings. And he picks up. And he was like, hello? And I was good when it was ringing, and as soon as I heard his voice, just the tears just pouring out of me, just hyperventilating. I can pretty much mimic to you exactly how it sounded. It was, I have something to tell you. Terrible. And I think he already knew, because he was like, what? And I was just bawling my eyes out again. I'm pregnant, I said to him. And he just kind of sat there silently, didn't really say much. As I'm just hyperventilating and crying, and he's like, Tyra, stop crying. It's something that we're gonna have to figure out. And then he says, you know what I want you to do. And I'm like, ugh. We can't even consider the other options, you know what I mean? And I was like, I don't know. Like, you know, you always think that that's something that you can do until the time comes when, like, you actually have to do it. And then you're like, I've never been in this position before. And I've watched a lot of girls' abortion stories on YouTube. This is something that affected me personally very, very deeply. But I know it doesn't affect everyone in the same way. I know some girls it does, some girls it doesn't. And I've watched a lot of girls' abortion stories, and never once have I heard anyone say that they felt an attachment to the baby once they found out. But for me personally, I definitely did. I definitely did. When I found out I was pregnant, as scared as I was, despite all the emotions running through my brain, like, I felt like, you know, like, we created life. Like, we created something, you know, something that would be a representation of both of us. So, fast forward, basically, I went to the doctor. She told me I was pregnant, and straight up, just out of the blue, I asked for abortion options off the bat. My mind hadn't necessarily been made up. Jerome, my boyfriend, ex-boyfriend, came with me for the test. And he was there with me in the office. He was pretty much with me through the entire thing. So I just want to say to you, if you're watching this, I genuinely appreciate that once again. He came with me. I talked to my mom. Jerome didn't tell me. He would not tell me what his opinion was on it. Whether he thought I should get an abortion or not, he would not say, because he said, I want you to make this decision on your own, and I don't want to influence it in any way. My mom, however, had a different opinion. She had me when she was 21, so almost the same age, and she was like, don't do it. She's like, I don't regret having you at all, but she's like, Tyra, it is hard. It's hard to have a kid that young, period. That's it. And I had contemplated, because I was like, if I have this baby, it could help James. You know, maybe he'll have something to, like, live for. He'll get off drugs. He'll stop doing that. You know, like, I'm not saying that we're going to be together, because I didn't know what the chances of that were. Like, I'm not saying I didn't have feelings for him, but that's not what I was hoping for. But I definitely weighed all options. And, so then I finally decided to have an abortion. So what had happened was, the morning of my abortion, my auntie and Jerome took me to the hospital, is where I got it done. Where I live, there's two options. You can either go to a specific women's clinic that specializes in abortions, or you can have it done at the hospital. I chose the hospital for two reasons. One, because this was the hardest decision of my entire life, and I'm sorry, but I do not need protesters attacking me for it. You know what I mean? I'm already upset enough as it is, but having a baby was just not right for me at the time. I didn't need to deal with the protesters. And two, I felt more comfortable having this dangerous procedure done in a hospital in case something were to go wrong. And, you know, still to this day, I don't know if anything went wrong, because until you get pregnant again, you don't know if there was a problem. And that's, like, the emotional side effects of it. That's what started to get to me. So the day comes, we get there, I check into the hospital, they send me to the abortion clinic. They give me papers to go get my blood drawn. When I'm sitting there, so I get my blood drawn, I come back to the abortion clinic. Then they send me in to talk to a therapist. And she asked me a lot of questions about James. That was the main focus of our conversation, was James. What did he do? Where was he, for example? That's something I didn't mention. I begged him. I begged and I begged and I begged for him to be there. And he wouldn't. So we're sitting there, we're talking, and I tried to evade her questions and avoid them as desperately as I possibly could, because, I mean, despite the fact that the decision had been made, I still wasn't positive about it. You know, it didn't make me feel good. And I didn't want her to think that it's something I didn't want to go through with. So she sends me back out into this waiting room, and I'm sitting there looking around, and it's just a room full of girls feeling just as terrified as me. And I have to tell you, like, getting an abortion is a morbid situation. It is terrifying. It's so scary. So at this point, I'm in a walking cast at this point. So I didn't have crutches or anything, but I definitely still needed a cast on to walk. My foot was still for sure broken. And so they take me back and they bring me into this change room. And they give me a hospital gown. They're like, here, you need to put this on. We need you to take your panties off. We need you to take your cast off. They made me take it off. So I changed into everything. So then a nurse comes in and grabs me, and she's like, okay, we're going to take you to your room now, your procedure room. And that's another thing. They don't call it abortion. They don't refer to it as an abortion. It's a procedure. It is a procedure. That's that. It's almost like when someone goes to jail and they call it going away. You know what I mean? Own up to it. It is what it is. So they bring you back to this room. And it's through 2 swinging hospital doors, just as you would expect it to be. And there's a big chair in the middle of the room. Looks like a dentist chair. 2 stirrups for your feet at the bottom. And she says, climb up into the chair. Climb up into the chair, and your team will be in shortly. So I get in the chair, put my feet in the stirrups, and I just lay there and I look up, and like this room is scary. It is scary. They had those big metal pendant lights, the ones that swing back and forth in creepy horror movies, dimmed. They had them dimmed on a dimmer switch to like set mood, I guess. I don't know. It just scared the crap out of me, really. It was a long time. I'm thinking upwards of 20-25 minutes. Just giving you time to contemplate your decision even more and more. So I'm sitting there looking around this room, and like I looked at my feet and I saw the tank, with the vacuum on the end. There's like 2 cylinders, and then there's the long tube, basically that they stick inside you and they suck it out. So I'm just sitting there, and it's terrifying. And then my team comes in. There's an anesthesiologist, a few nurses, a doctor. No one speaks to me. No one, except the anesthesiologist. She comes up to me and she's like, okay, I'm going to inject some stuff into you. It's going to make you calm down. She's like, it might put you in a twilight sleep. It might knock you out completely. It just depends on the body. And I'm like, okay, like, thank you. But this stuff that they gave me, like, I could feel it going in through my vein and like dissipating throughout my body. Like, it was absolutely insane. And I looked at her and I remember being like, wow, you can really feel that working pain. She's like, yeah, it's strong. And that's it. Don't remember anything else. When I woke up, my panties were already back on and my cast was back on my foot. And I had like a big, thickest pad you've ever seen in your life. It's basically right there. And pain in my stomach. Just pain. And I just remember being fucked out of my mind. Just messed up. And so they sat me up and pretty much like the whole process is very like get up and go. Like it's fast. They get you through there fast. And so they get me up and they bring me back into this other section, and it's just a line of lazy boy recliners with curtain, like hospital curtains in between separating them. And so they sit me down in a lazy boy, give me a little bag of cookies and a juice box, and they're like, we just need to make sure that you can stand, that you can walk, that you're okay. And the only thing that I said is like, I want to go home. So 2 nurses came back, and they got me up, and they put me in a wheelchair, and they wheeled me back to the initial doors, and just kind of pushed me through them. There you go, you're done. Go home now. That was it. They just pushed me through the doors, and I made it a few steps. Jerome and my aunt were waiting on the other side, and I collapsed in his arms. I was in pain. Like, the procedure is painful. Like, it doesn't feel good. So we went home. We get there, and we go inside, and nothing. Just didn't feel anything. I was laying on the floor in fetal position, bawling my eyes out, crying for hours and hours. So that was the abortion itself. And I got, sorry. I got a tattoo of the date of my abortion. It's on my back, so I don't have to look at it every day, but it's not something that I want to regret. So that is my abortion story.
First thing, what do you think she said at the end? So she doesn't forget it, or so she doesn't regret it?
Yeah, I'll play it again.
It's on my back, so I don't have to look at it every day, but it's not something that I want to regret. So
I think she said regret.
Yeah.
that is my abortion story.
Okay, so what were your thoughts on that video?
Well, I definitely feel like her experience, especially with the therapy and different options part, was not as successful as at least the last video. I definitely think that she had a different experience there, and that should have been worked on, because it seems like even now, after however long it's been, she still doesn't seem sure of her decision. And I definitely think that before a decision like that is made, that people providing you with it definitely need to make sure that it's something that you're sure you want to do, because it's their responsibility too to make sure that you're making the right decision.
Yeah, I guess that was kind of surprising for me too, to hear. And even feeling, because I know, like, in the last video you had asked about whether the girl felt respected, and I would say in this one, she didn't really feel that by the people that she was having abortion. Again, I don't agree with the ultimate decision she ended up making, but again, she was in a hard position too, being as young as she was, and not really having a lot of the financial capabilities to raise a child.
So was there anything about her story that that surprised you in any way? How the progression went, anything like that?
Just mostly about how she was treated and stuff like that. And I mean, I don't know, that was, I guess, the most surprising thing about it, because you expect in situations like that for the person to, first of all, be informed about what they're gonna go through, and like she was saying how the nurse came up and injected her, and I mean, I don't know what the nurse actually said, but in the video she said that the nurse said, "I'm gonna put this stuff in you," like, you know, like they should be very clear about what they're gonna do and how they're gonna do it, and provide her with all of the information about the procedure that she's gonna go through. And even, like, it seemed to me that she seemed to be shocked about, like, how much pain she was in afterwards, and that should have also been made clear before the procedure happened. So I guess just the lack of communication that these doctors had with her was surprising.
Yeah, I guess I would kind of agree on that too. Although I know the girl in the last video too, even though she'd done a lot of research, she still said she was really surprised at the kind of afterward, of what happened too. So I mean, maybe even there too, there could have been a bit more education. Because yeah, it's important to know what's gonna happen, especially because I know like both of these girls said like it was really a painful experience. So I think that'd be an important thing that both of before going through with an abortion, people should know that it's a painful experience.
I picked up on that she was very descriptive about everything that was going on. Is there anything you want to discuss in that regard? Just how descriptive she was.
Like, as in, like, her whole situation, or just regarding the abortion?
I would say the whole situation.
Well, I definitely think that, like, people, like, if she's putting this out there for people to understand her situation, it's important for her to describe it all, especially the fact that she was basically kind of in a relationship with two different people, and, like, I just think that understanding people's situations when they decide to have abortions is important. So, I mean, I think that's beneficial for, in the sense that she was so descriptive about what happened.
Yeah, I mean, especially she's trying to like reach out to people, others that are in her same situation. It's probably helpful to know some of those details in the background too, because they may be able to relate to them as well.
So now, just as kind of like an overall of everything we've discussed today, so talk about anything, if at all, that you maybe learned from this experience, or anything that maybe moved you in some way.
Well, I think I definitely learned a lot more about, I guess, abortion itself. Like, I didn't really know a lot of the steps to it. I knew that there were different options for the procedures, but not necessarily the details about them. And I know about, like, Planned Parenthood, but I didn't know about, like, how, I guess, helpful they really are. Like, I know that they're helpful in the sense that they provide care for people, but, like, their actual client or their staff seemed to be at least very helpful in that situation. So, I mean, you kind of, I don't know, I guess that's just not what I pictured, like, as, because when you think of, like, Planned Parenthood or any kind of, like, clinic, you kind of think of, like, they're usually really busy and don't have a lot of time to provide a lot of care to every individual patient. So I guess it was just, I don't know, comforting to hear that they were able to at least provide, at least in this location, I don't know about other ones, but in that location they were able to provide like a very personal and helpful experience for her.
Yeah, that was something I learned too. Yes, I haven't don't know a lot about a lot of the, like, yeah, I guess her experience, and I don't know, I guess I haven't talked with a lot of people that have gone into Planned Parenthood to know their own experiences. That was good to hear her and good to learn about that too. Feeling like she was respected and they were helping her with knowledge, and I would hope that in any situation, any place where someone would be having an abortion, like, that would be the case. But yeah, so that was kind of a learning experience too, just to have them talk about the procedure more in detail.
Do you think you will feel any differently leaving this room than you did when you walked in? not saying like that your opinion as a whole changed, but just anything in general.
I mean, I guess a little bit. Like, it's just having more of an understanding of like how the actual procedures work gives you a little bit of a different insight on it. But I mean, overall, in a general sense, I don't really think so. I think gives you more insight to understand how it happens and what goes on.
I would say, yeah. I mean, I think anytime really that you have the opportunity to learn more, to have someone share their own experience with you, that it will impact you in some way. You know, give you either more insight, definitely, even just the power of the stories too, to learn more about them and how that impacted them, and even what they're doing now to kind of reach out to other women too. So yeah, I would say it has affected.
And then just a final question: how about your like discussion with each other? Are you going to take anything from that at all?
Well, I think it was definitely beneficial to see that we came to an agreement on a lot of things that were brought up, because I feel like most of the time when people don't have the same opinion on abortion, it usually is a pretty heated debate or more like an argument. So, I mean, I definitely think it's good to see that there's definitely middle ground that people can find.
Yeah, and I would like to see more of this too, because I think, yeah, it's, again, I think characterized a lot. You hear about arguments and heated discussions, and it's really hard to help anyone in that way. You have to have just be able to have an actual discussion. Probably not going to change anyone's mind by coming and yelling at them in any way, whether you're for or against. It's not going to change anything. So to have an actual discussion like this and be able to talk about it and be really, willing to listen, even if you may not agree on a situation.